Hello and welcome to this training on configuring and managing company branding in a Microsoft Entra tenant. I'm excited to guide you through creating a consistent, trusted sign-in experience for your users. Let's start by defining what we mean by company branding in Microsoft Entra. Essentially, it is the process of customizing the default Microsoft sign-in pages to reflect your organization's identity. Why is this critical? When users access your corporate intranet or web-based applications, they are redirected to Microsoft Entra for authentication. If they see a generic page, they might hesitate. By adding your logo, background colors, and custom text, you create a seamless experience that reassures users they are in the right place. This capability applies whether you are managing a workforce tenant for your employees or an external tenant for customers and partners, although the specific feature sets can vary slightly between them. This diagram illustrates the user's journey during sign-in. When a user accesses an application, they hit the authentication phase. Without configuration, they encounter the default generic Microsoft page, which can lead to lower trust or confusion about whether they are accessing the correct resource. However, by configuring branding, we direct them to a custom logo and background experience. This path fosters high trust and provides a seamless user experience, which is our ultimate goal. Before we dive into the configuration, we must ensure the prerequisites are met. First, look at licensing. Custom branding is not available with the free tier. You generally need a Microsoft Entra ID P1 or P2 license or a Microsoft 365 Business Standard Edition. Next, consider permissions. You don't need to be a global administrator. The organizational branding administrator role is sufficient and follows the principle of least privilege. Finally, prepare your assets. Your graphic designers should provide images in PNG or JPG format. Pay close attention to file sizes, for instance. Your banner logo must be under 50 KB, while background images can be up to 300 KB. Getting these right beforehand prevents errors during upload. This flowchart outlines the preparation steps. We start by checking if you have the valid license, such as P1 or P2. If yes, we verify your role. Remember, you need to be an organizational branding administrator. If you lack this, you must request it. Once access is confirmed, we move to asset preparation. You must validate your image file sizes against Microsoft's requirements like the 50 kilobyte limit for logos. Only when these checks pass are you truly ready to configure. Now, let's look at the actual configuration in the Microsoft Entra Admin Center. You will navigate to Identity, then User Experiences, and select Company Branding. The default sign-in experience is your global fallback. Here, you upload your background image, which should be a high-resolution 1920 x 1080 pixel image. Be aware that the sign-in box might obscure the center of this image, so keep key visuals on the periphery. You also upload the banner logo, which sits at the top of the sign-in box. A helpful feature here is the username hint. You can replace the standard input placeholders with custom text like enter your employee ID to guide your users specifically on what credentials to use. This visual breaks down the components of the sign-in page class. We have the background image and banner logo as key visual elements, connected to their specific technical specs like pixel dimensions. We also have text properties like username hint and page text. This diagram represents the relationship between the configuration settings you manage and the assets you must provide to establish that global look and feel. Moving beyond images, you can control the layout. You can choose a full screen background or a partial screen option if you want the background to be less dominant. You also have granular control over the header and footer. This is where you can add custom URLs for your organization's privacy and cookies or terms of use policies, rather than relying on Microsoft's defaults. A critical note for advanced customization: you can currently upload a custom CSS file to radically change fonts and element positioning. However, be aware that for new workforce tenants created after January 5, 2026, custom CSS support will be discontinued, although external ID tenants are not affected by this change. Plan your designs accordingly. Here we map out the layout options. Starting at Layout Config, you branch into visual templates where you decide between full or partial screen modes. Simultaneously, you configure page elements like headers and footer links for compliance. The advanced styling path leads to custom CSS, but notice the warning node attached to it. This highlights the critical deprecation date of 2026 for new workforce tenants, serving as a reminder to rely more on built-in configuration options going forward. Your users might be global, and your branding should reflect that. Microsoft Entra allows you to add browser language customizations. This means if a user's browser is set to Spanish, you can serve them a Spanish localized version of your background image or logos, and most importantly, translated instructions. This setting acts as an override. If you configure branding for a specific locale, it takes precedence over the default settings we discussed earlier. If a user's language isn't defined, the system simply falls back to your default configuration, ensuring no user sees a broken experience. This state diagram shows the logic flow for localization. When a user arrives, the system performs a check language action against the browser settings. If a match is found for a configured language, it transitions to the specific config state, rendering a localized page. If no match is found, it safely falls back to the default config, rendering the global page. This ensures that the user always receives a branded experience, whether it's targeted or generic. For those of you managing external ID tenants for customers, there is a powerful preview feature called branding themes. Traditionally, branding was tenant-wide. Now, you can create unique branding themes assigned to specific applications within the same tenant. This allows you to host a partner's app and a consumer app in the same directory, but with completely different visual identities. Hierarchy is important here. An application-specific theme overrides the default tenant branding, which in turn overrides Microsoft's neutral branding. This granularity is essential for multi-brand organizations. This diagram helps visualize the hierarchy of branding themes. At the top is the tenant root. You have a baseline default branding applied generally. However, for App 1 and App 2, we apply Theme A and Theme B respectively. The arrows indicate that these specific themes override the default branding. This visualizes how you can maintain distinct visual identities for different products under a single tenant umbrella. To wrap up, effective management of your tenant's branding requires preparation and testing. Always optimize your images. Large files can slow down the sign-in experience, especially on mobile networks. Once you apply changes, testing is non-negotiable. Open a private browser window to verify the user experience immediately changes, can take a few minutes to propagate based on location. Use username hints to help users sign in correctly the first time. Finally, try to stick to the built-in visual templates rather than relying heavily on custom CSS, especially for workforce tenants, to ensure future compatibility and support. Our final diagram depicts the life cycle of branding management. It starts with plan and design, where you define your look. You move to configure assets, where you upload files. Then you apply settings in the portal. The crucial step is test experience. If issues arise, the feedback loop sends you back to planning. If the test is successful, you move to the final deploy state. This cycle ensures your branding remains high quality and functional.